Look, I don't think there's anything that you can do differently as a coach. I think fielding is like most other things in the game. It's all about confidence. The more you talk about it, the more you focus on it, probably sometimes the harder it becomes. So, look, we can highlight some of our great fielding performances and focus on those and try and take the positives out of those performances and try not focus too much on the mistakes you're making. It's the more you focus on those mistakes, the harder it is to overcome them. So we've got to look at the good stuff we've done in the field. We've taken some great catches, had some good runouts, and we've got to focus on that and try and make sure we try and do that on a more consistent basis.
So you think that it's more of psychological thing than technical?
Look, end of the day, some teams have got some great fielders. Some teams have got some average fielders. It's about getting the right guys in the right positions a lot of the times. Like I say, confidence is a big thing in a fielding unit like it is with batting and bowling. But yep, we've got to make sure that we get ourselves mentally in a good space to go into the series and back ourselves and believe that we are a good fielding side and that we can field really well under pressure. Look, there's no doubt that we've got an experienced core of players in Mushfiq, Riyad, Tamim and Shakib, but always important to try and find one or two younger players and give them an opportunity. So hopefully a guy like Afif can come into the series this time and try and make an impact. I think whilst you've got all those senior players, it's also important to try and develop some young players because those players are not going to be around forever. There's always going to be injuries, retirements, loss of forms with certain players. So you've got to make sure that you've got a broad base of players. So if you can try and get one or two young players to perform consistently, I think that's an important thing for this team. We as a team, we need to make sure we do the basics well. We haven't done the basics well in one-day cricket over the last couple of games. In saying that, it's 3 ODIs ago that we played really well against the West Indies. So look, we're back at home. I think if we can focus really hard on the basics, I think when teams' confidence levels are down, there's no need to try and get fancy or try complicated things. It's to really just make sure you do the basics well in this format. If we can do that, we will get ourselves in a position where we can try one or two things. But we've got to first lay the platforms, do the basics well with bat and with ball before we can consider getting too clever or too funky in terms of game plans and strategy. No, not at all. The guys have prepared really well these last couple of days. Look, obviously it's not ideal not having the entire coaching staff here, but the domestic coaches, Bubble and Tala, have been of great help. So great that they can be around the team as well. So there's that benefit to it. But look, the guys are all professional. They've played international cricket for a long time. They know what they need to do in terms of their preparation. In terms of decision making, by no means. Ultimately, the captain on the field of play makes all those decisions, and in consultation with the head coach, a lot of those decisions get made. So, no, it won't affect us too much at all. Well, I think we're trying to find somebody that can maybe slot into that number 7 role, a batter who can offer some spin bowling options, and there's obviously a couple of options available. There's Afif, there's Mossadegh. We've floated with the idea of Shomo being down there. Shomo can cover for the top order as well. So Mossadegh's coming into that particular space where he's competing for a spot in the lower middle order. Someone that can finish games, good fielder, good package, can bat, can bowl. So we look at him in that particular role. Well, I think that's the important thing, is to, with the World Cup still 2 years away, is to try and make sure that, like I said previously, when you get to 6 months or 8 months before the World Cup, you know exactly what your batting lineup's going to be, who's batting in what position. And whilst winning is very important in these series, with points up for grabs, it also allows you an opportunity to try and finalize what you think your batting lineup will be in 2 years' time when the World Cup is around. So, look, we've got to be smart in that. Obviously, we want to be playing what we think is our best team all the time, but you also need to find opportunities to give one or two fringe players an opportunity to see how they go, if they can fit into the plan. So With COVID situations around, the plus side that it allows you a big squad to travel with, where you can look at guys in training, in warm-up games, in match situations as well. So, we've got an intention of carrying a few all-rounders with us so that we can make sure that we've got the right guys on the bus when we do get to a World Cup. Well, I think Saifuddin has had a couple of niggles which has set him back a little bit. Obviously, he's a little bit down on confidence, but he's been an important player for this team. I think that's why a guy like Showidul's come into the squad as well as a backup player to provide a little bit of competition, challenge Saifuddin a little bit, make sure that he pushes himself hard as well. I think always good to have competition for places. So you're right, we are still looking for maybe a genuine all-rounder. Saifuddin is still very much a bowler who can hit the ball at the back end. Not quite good enough to bat in the top 6 yet. So whilst we're still looking for that, he has done really well for Bangladesh in the past, particularly in Bangladesh. So we're pretty confident that he can regain some of that form. And look, all players go through dips in confidence, in performance, in form. But it's a good challenge for him to see how he gets through this, because that's the test of international cricket. It's not always just going to go your way, and you need to find a way when things are not going in your favour to put in some big performances as well. Yeah, it is tricky. Look, ultimately, winning right now is always important, but you've also got to have one eye on the future. And sometimes we need to be a little bit more aware of that and not always just focus on the immediate, or sometimes we focus too much on the past. We've got to look forward as well. This is an important series, we know that, and points are up for grabs. So yeah, it's a balancing act, because performances now are very important, but also the development of the team going forward is equally as important, because who knows, maybe in 2 years' time you don't have Shakib or Tamim or Riyad or Mushfiq available, and you've got to make sure that you've developed some other players who can step into those type of players' boots. So yep, we've got to be careful about how we manage that process.